afternoon and welcome to Free Talk. I'm Noeleen Nasan. We can feel it, express it, and sometimes see it. But is love something we truly understand? Paul Mushlin says, your life and the lives of those you love are happening now. Your life today is not a dress rehearsal for another life. Live it with love now. Tonight on Free Talk, we are asking the question, what is love? We'll be exploring what living your life with love means and take a look at the different components of successful, loving relationships. What does love mean for you? How do you express your love? Call 086 2233 303 or you can SMS 083 601 9932. Please welcome Claudia Davimi, a social worker, and Ian Opperman, a psychologist and Imago therapist. Thank you so much for coming in. We'll talk about what an Imago therapist is, but I think the first question, Claudia, we need to ask is, what is love?
A difficult concept to explain, but for me, I think one of the things to look at is it's a very active, positive emotion. It's a synergy, a coming together of lots of different feelings at the same time, making up an experience that you have that is mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. It's a very active emotion, and by that I mean it is a very conscious experience that a person has of well-being between a person and a person with God, a person and any living thing. And it is an experience that a person has of feeling involved with their environment in an uplifting way that allows them to feel encouraged, enriched, and safe.
But love is not only love for your husband or your wife or your partner. It's also love for, as Claudia was saying, for God, for your environment, for people, but the primary relationships in your life, those are the most important ones, aren't they?
They're the place where love is really being exercised. That's the place where we got an opportunity to exercise our loving relationships. And a lot of people misunderstand love as think it's only a good emotion. The opposite of love is fear, and it encompasses one another, and they go hand in hand. You cannot separate the one from the other.
Yeah.
For instance, if people fall in love, those first 6 months or 2 hours in Britney Spears' case, or other people...
was it really love?
Was it really love? Or lust in that case.
Yeah.
But we call it the romantic phase. And when the romantic phase fizzles out, the next phase that takes over is called the power struggle. In that time, people's unconscious childhood wounding are coming to the fore. And that's where Imago really plays a role. Because then what we do is when we attract our life partner, we attract our shadow opposites. They have something that we don't have. So let us say I grew up in a family where if you fall off your bicycle and you break your leg, your dad says, get on the bicycle, you're a boy, you're not allowed to cry, and I'm not really breaking your leg, I'm kind of making it, but say you cut your leg or whatever, and drive. In my life, I will attract a partner who is the opposite. So, in other words, I've learned not to feel my feelings. In my life, I will attract my Imago, my opposite, who will then feel too much. And why I'm attracted to that person is they will have a characteristic and elements of myself that I feel is missing in me. So I'm attracted to that for that reason. Of course, that person will be attracted in me for another reason, for the fact that I'm can stand up and can be structured in times of crisis and can still go on with my bicycle riding in spite of the bad things happening around me or my bleeding knee or whatever the case might be. So we often, after the romantic phase is fizzled out, we worry about ourselves and we say that, but why has this happened? Why is this person that I fell in love with, why is he so ugly now? But that thing that we fell in love with becomes ugly after a while because we're scared to get that thing. That thing that is so attractive in the beginning becomes scary later on.
Right.
And we project in our
negative. That's when you say love equals fear.
Then it becomes the fearfulness. Then our relationship is not safe anymore. It's not a nest that is nurturing and cuddling and cherishing anymore.
Then, Ian, do you fall out of love in that instance?
It's a different form of love. Love changes shape. And you can, of course, fall out of love. And then what a lot of people do during the romantic phase when they can't resolve things is they do the exits. Exits could be parallel lives. Exits could be husband sitting in front of the TV, watching TV while wife is doing her thing, and they're virtually ignoring one another.
Yeah.
Exits could be sport, like he will play golf and a wife will be so involved with the kids that they don't see each other.
They grow apart.
They grow apart. Exits in the worst case could be murder, suicide, family murder, all of those things could be exits.
So love is not forever. I mean, in the movies and the beautiful songs that we listen to, love is forever, but in reality, love is not forever.
Potentially it can be. But as Ian was talking about, the other thing, you mentioned love and fear as being involved as opposites. Another way to look at it, and it was quite interesting, you know, with today's 60th anniversary for Auschwitz, Elie Wiesel said the opposite of love is not hate, it's apathy. And I like that definition a lot, because when I work, certainly, and you work from the metaphysical point of view, it is a very active, conscious desire on our part to be responsible for what we are doing in our relationships. So the more responsible we are to make sense of our childhood pain, as Ian pointed out, the more responsible we are and the more willing we are to make sense of what is stopping us from loving, we can make love an ongoing, infinite experience. But it's how willing we are to deal with our pain that stops us from having love. Love is available. It's not something we can stop. It's that we stop tapping into it because our pain has overtaken our experience of willingness, or our pain has overtaken our belief. And when people become cynical, for example, it's because they have really lost their desire, in a way, to find out what it is that's getting in the way of their love. So love is spoken about a lot of the time. We're under pressure, a lot of movies and songs about love, and we keep thinking that we're supposed to be feeling it on a particular level. And I think we're under tremendous pressure. But the good news is, I think, if you really feel that you create your reality and you feel excited about being in the driver's seat, it's not as elusive as we think.
Let's look at the different components of love.
Okay.
What are they? What do they mean?
Okay, so the different components, for example, the first one is giving. Now, there's two ways of giving. We can give of ourselves, which is more of feminine energy, where we give of ourselves. For example, if I know that something is important for you, I might give up my need to manipulate a situation or to control a situation, and I give something of myself to you, which is the ultimate of giving, because it's giving something tremendously important in ourselves. It's quite easy, in a way, to sacrifice something that's not that important. So I can give up money for you. But when I give up something emotionally that's very important to me, that's the real sense of giving. So you can give of yourself and you can give to people. And those two levels are pretty important. And that's certainly a very big component of love, is giving on an emotional level and a physical level. Not to deny the importance of one or the other, but certainly both. The other one is caring, and there's a lovely definition about caring, which is that it's actually a labor of love. And that is, you know, when you get a garden, there's a tremendous amount that you have to do to look after a garden. You have to check the right soil and put in compost and make sure you're putting the plants in the right way. And when we care in a relationship, it is a kind of project on that level. Because, you know, sympathy is so easy. It's actually, sympathy in a way is laziness. We can say shame, you know, what's happened to you. But when we have empathy with our partner or our friend or our lover or whoever, we really are investing. And it's like a project of taking care to help another person grow. So caring is another huge component in love. And caring is an investment. Responsibility is important, that it's responsibility with and not for. And this is one that people have a very hard time with. People like to rescue and take over, but responsibility with. The other one is respect and self-acceptance. And that is that when you first accept your own dark side or the negative inside of you, and you respect, then you can respect sides of somebody else that you don't always like. So when you've accepted yourself and you respect yourself for who you are, and you're able to accept and respect somebody else, that's what respect and self-acceptance is about. What I wanted to say, Noeleen, right from the beginning is you cannot do this for another person unless you can first give these components to yourself. The fifth one is knowing and learning, and that is our willingness to know, not take ourselves for granted and not take the other person for granted. And that's a huge problem in relationships, because we treat people historically rather than what they're doing at the time. The other one is intimacy and humility, and that is waking up each day and believing that things can be different. And to believe that things can be different is a very active emotion, and that brings the possibility of intimacy. And the last one is commitment and courage, where we have responsibility, a total responsibility to stay involved in a process with a person no matter what. And not used, we use commitment very lightly, and people use the word commitment all the time. Someone's commitment phobic or whatever it is. But commitment really is the ability to stay involved in a process, in an evolution with another person.
Well, it seems like love is very hard work. Have you ever been in love? Call me on 086 223 or you can SMS 083 601 9932. You love them, but they are intolerable, uncontrollable, and often addicted to substances or abusive behavior. After the break, we'll be talking about tough love. What is it and how can it help you? To Free Talk, I'm Noeleen. Love is not meant to hurt. So why do we often find ourselves with broken hearts, hurt feelings, and at times emotions of guilt and shame when we love someone? Tough love teaches you to understand your fundamental beliefs about love so you can repattern and change your relationships. Please welcome the international representative for Tough Love, Cheryl Rami. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for coming in. So what is tough love? I've just given a very brief description and I don't think it's sufficient.
Basically, Tough Love's a family support group helping parents and families whose kids are out of control. And there's such a fine line between loving appropriately and loving in a controlled fashion. And I think by the time parents come to Tough Love or families come to Tough Love, everybody's life is out of control. The kids are acting out, drinking, drugging, stealing, behaving inappropriately. And parents are trying everything in their power to stop the behavior and to stop the out-of-control person. But nobody thinks about, hang on, I need to make some changes. And that's where Tough Love came from. And it's called Tough Love because it's tough on the families to make changes and take the focus away from the person who's out of control. Make significant changes in our lives, and eventually the changes will spill off to bring about more appropriate behavior. But generally it's about gaining control of our home and ourselves rather than control over another. And for some people, that concept is bizarre. I've got to control him. He's a youngster, he's a kid, he's acting out, he's stealing, he's drugging, he's drinking. I've got to control him because he can't control himself. So it becomes very difficult to make those changes and say, I'm responsible for me. I'm not responsible for you. I can help you in a different, more appropriate way. And I think Tough Love's got a bad rap over the years because we seem to be kick him out, cut off, stop all money and everything's going to come right. But it's not that. It's about me making significant changes to bring about change.
So you the parent, you the brother, you the sister, whoever is trying to help this person.
Correct.
All right, I go to you. Let's go to Charles in Johannesburg. Charles, good evening. Hello, Charles? Charles? No, Charles is not there anymore. Oh, we've lost him. What is your personal experience with Tough Love? Or is it, don't you have a personal experience?
I joined Tough Love about 18 years ago. I had a family member who was out of control, drinking, drugging, stealing, destroying himself. He was very young. And we didn't know where else to go. A lot of people had wonderful advice, but nobody tried some of the things that they'd suggested us to do. And emotionally, we were wrecked. We couldn't think for ourselves. We couldn't make decisions. We behaved appallingly. We screamed and shouted, ranted and raved, threatened, never followed through. And I joined Tough Love out of desperation and didn't quite like what they told me at the time.
What did they tell you?
I had to change me. Couldn't change him. I had to change myself and my behavior, the role that I was playing in the family. By the time I got into the process and it made sense, it didn't really matter what he was up to. It was more about living as a family and learning different kind of love with boundaries, which was new.
I love what Cheryl, I love what Cheryl is saying, that you've got to change yourself, because often in relationships with your wife, with your partner, whatever, we want to change you. Ian, you are the one who's got to change. But I don't look at myself. And when someone, Claudia comes in and says, but Noeleen, why don't you look at yourself? You say, no, I'm not the problem. Ian is the problem.
Yes. What we often find in couples therapy is that they'll come and blame. They'll come with lists. My wife is doing this wrong. My husband is doing this wrong. And what we're saying is, you cannot change anybody else, exactly what you've been saying.
Yeah.
You've got to start with yourself. But what we do, we invite them in the beginning. We understand that the projection they do onto their partner is part of their hurt.
Yes.
So if I say, you're never there for me, you're going to help me to understand how my father was never there for me when I was a child, or my mother was never there for me when I was a child. So through using what Imago says is that your partner, your life partner, your marriage, your life friend that you've got with you, that person is your best therapist in the whole wide world. Because they have the opportunity to heal you, because they've got the place, they know exactly all the buttons to push to hurt you most. And the flip side of that coin then is they know exactly where to heal you.
Yes.
So if they just get trained in how to heal you, if you can say, but what am I prepared to heal to heal my partner? And they can say the same, and we can come into the relationship with a total different mindsets. Because what people want to do, nobody wants to go into a relationship and say, in 2 years' time, I want a divorce. People want to come home to a loving partner. They want to come home to a loving environment where they kissed and they cherished and they loved. Nobody wants to go to a bad place. So why does it go wrong? And the reason why it goes wrong is because of those projections we do. We attract the opposite. So if I was rejected as a child, I'm going to attract a rejecting partner into my life. That partner is bound to reject me because we set them up through our behavior. And when that does happen, I say, oh, look what a terrible person I've married. I divorced them, marry a second person, and guess what? I've attracted the exact same pattern because I haven't changed who I am.
So it's the change comes with you first. Jacques in Johannesburg, hello.
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 How about this?
Yes.
Love hurts. How about this? Love ends. How about this? Love destroys. How about this? Love inhibits. How about this? I love you and I love somebody else now after 4 years. How about this? Love blackmails. I listened to the woman about tough love. Tough love does hurt. I think it is so false to tell people when they're going to get married that I'm going to love you till death do us part. Is it possible? When I married you, the bed life was okay. Now I don't love you anymore. Toodle-doo, Noeleen, that'll rock them a bit, baby.
Now, Jacques, you still there?
Yes.
Obviously, you're not just theorizing about this. This is not hypothetical.
No, not one. I myself am in this profession. People come to me and say, when I married Mary or Peter, I loved her. No, I don't. Michael beats Mary purple and blue and he calls it love. And she accepts, by the way.
Yeah.
When I married you, the bed was okay. Now it's not okay.
Yeah.
I love you, but our whole relationship destroys. I never knew that people can come to me and say, I love Noeleen and Mary now. I can't decide. There's no theory in that.
Okay.
My oldest parasite got married a year ago, and I said to the priest, how can you say to those two kids, I'm going to love you till death do us part?
That's the romantic ideal, Jacques. Thank you very much. Because, I mean, you can't go to the altar and say, well, we're getting married for maybe 2 years and then, you know, we possibly will get divorced. You want to get married forever. But what Jacques is showing is yes, he's very cynical about life, but I think a lot of people as well out there feel, maybe people who have been hurt by their loved ones, feel like that. Are very cynical about love. For them, love doesn't exist.
Look, I think in some ways, we don't have a choice. We keep seeking love because I think that's what we are driven by. That's what Freud spoke about in terms of our life force, eros. That's what, if you think about it, why are we here? To achieve what? Essentially, certainly my belief is that we're here in this lifetime to know that we've loved and been loved. There's nothing else really to achieve. Everything probably we've done under the sun. You can learn a profession. There's nothing particularly, huge about that. The point is that we come into this lifetime to evolve as people and to experience love. And I think the fact that we want someone familiar, that's why we seek marriage, that's why we seek one partner, is because we want someone familiar where we're going to feel safe, where we can start being intimate, that person will know us and we'll feel safe. At the same time, we start to get bored with a person who's not taking care of us, or we feel pain with a person who's let us down. But it still comes down to the bottom line. Am I responsible first for taking care of myself in the way that I'm expecting you to take care of me? And I think that a lot of people don't look at the sense of responsibility that's required in love. They moan, they complain, they blame. They feel like victims, they're martyrs, and there's a long list of angry reports about everybody else not fulfilling what is required. But it comes down to the basic thing. How do I feel about myself, and how do I take care of me?
All right, Claudine, sorry, we'll catch up with you later on. Has love hurt you? Do you need tough love? Give us a call on 086 2233 303, or you can SMS 08360 19932. In a few moments, find out the connection between love, sex, and spirituality. You're watching Free Talk only on SABC3. Your eyes meet, your heart skips a beat, and your hormones go crazy. Passion erupts, and you think this is it. I'm in love. Romance, steamy sex, and a relationship begins. Or does it? Please welcome Sharon Mudau from Love Life and Apollo Zake from the Institute for Higher Learning. Now, love from a very young person. What do you do at Love Life?
I'm a groundbreaker.
And a groundbreaker does what?
Basically, a groundbreaker is a young person between the ages of 18 to 25 who is trained to work with young people, you know, somebody who they can be comfortable with because they're closer to their age.
All right. Apollo, what is your take on love? What is love for Apollo?
I think it's a very complex issue, but at the same time, it's as natural as air and water and everything we see every day. It's just that we tend to ignore it sometimes. And everyone, by living their lives to their fullest capabilities, is expressing an aspect of love. So you've got teachers who want to teach people, you've got pastors who want to heal people, you've got doctors and nurses and architects who build lovely buildings for us to see. These are all expressions of divine love within us because we're contributing to the development of society as a whole. And then what is overrated is romantic love. So people want to pull it out and say, no, this is different from everything else. But you can love your work.
But it is different. Because your heart doesn't go doom, doom, doom when you see a beautiful building.
It does some people. Some people's hearts go doom, doom when they're going to go for a sports match, for example. They love the sport so much that love gives them enough energy to play to their best ability. It's just that we want to idolize a particular person, but it has been proven that people who love their work excel at it the most. So these are all different facets of love in its totality.
Yes.
So it's a massive expression. God is love, and the whole world is an expression of this love, and we all live it every day. We just want to idolize romantic love particularly and make it seem like it's the only sort of love. But like your guest said before, love is pain as well. So can you accept that pain as part of your development, as part of your growth as well? So there are all these different facets of love, and we've got to understand it in its total picture and accept them all as part of our own self-development.
Kathy Sedgefield, hello.
Hello, Noeleen, and the panel. To me, love is a ticklish fascination in the heart that you cannot scratch, or a rebellious bird that you cannot tame. How's that, Noeleen?
I love that. What did you say, ticklish?
It's a ticklish fascination in the heart that you cannot scratch, or a rebellious bird that you cannot tame.
I love that.
Oh, I love it as well, and have a lovely day, all of you.
You too. I love you.
You too.
Bye-bye. Do teenagers, 18 to 24, or even younger, do they equate sex with love?
It's not as much as equating it. I think right now they're confusing love with sex, because you'll find that somebody is having sex just because they want to prove to that person that they love them. They don't understand the fact that you can love somebody just by being there for them and accepting them for who and what they are, without having to give yourself to them. You know, because there are relationships whereby people don't have sex, but still they have a great relationship. And there are people who are having sex within their relationship and still having a great relationship. So I think that's something that they're confusing.
But where does this come from, that sex is love? Where is it? Maybe let me ask you, Apollo.
I think it's the media. A lot of times sex is made to look as the symbolic act when you love someone. And it is, but a lot of people aren't mature enough to understand the power of what sex is meant to be for. It's an act of creation, and it has a lot of responsibilities associated with it. All right, so at an immature stage, you're trying to pull in this act that's a very noble act that should be taken and treated with great care as well. So the media has played a great role in attaching sex to love. Hence, romantic love is put on a pedestal as compared to other forms of love like brotherly and sisterly love or motherly love and that type of thing.
Yeah. When it comes to tough love, when do you know as a family member that your love now has to go to that level of being tough?
Sometimes somebody has to tell you. Sometimes when you're caught up in that chaos, you don't know. And you try over and over and over again, and you repeat the same behavior over and over with very little results. And somebody, probably who's been through that, has to say to you, enough's enough now. Because I think when you're living in addiction, pain becomes almost part of everyday life. And that continual behavior and chaos and turmoil becomes so natural that people live with it, and we have what we say called pity party, and they feel really sorry for themselves but don't make any changes. Sometimes we need an intervention, a confrontation. Somebody has to say enough now. You know, you can draw the line and that's it. Boundaries, no more. And sometimes we'll do it, and sometimes we'll renege and try again. It's very difficult, mainly because these are people we love a lot. Brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, children, grandkids.
All right, let's go to Dee in Johannesburg. Hi, Dee.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi, Noeleen. What I want to say is that, people, unfortunately, we live in a society where commitment isn't all that important, because people think to themselves, well, they go into a relationship, then, well, if it doesn't work out, we can always get divorced, which is the wrong attitude to start off with. Because if you go into a relationship, if it's supposed to be a lifetime relationship between two people, you don't go into it thinking, well, there's always a way out. You go into it because you want to work. You're going to work it in, and you're going to make it last. Not, just throw it out the window because the first rush of romantic love may have changed into something a lot deeper. Because that's what we're looking for, not just. The usual, just romantic love. There's so many kinds of love. I mean, you have somebody saying, well, they love fish. Well, how do they love it? Do they look after them in the aquarium, or do they eat? Do they like eating it? You know what I'm saying?
I do. Thank you very much. I wish a lot of people would think like that getting into a relationship is actually hard work. Exactly. What do you believe is a loving relationship?
I think relationships differ. But I think the loving relationship, you can define it by the way the people accept one another, without having to judge whether what type of a person they are and what type of, but accepting them whether they are just the way they are, and having that feeling of love, whether they do something wrong or right, but loving them regardless of everything.
All right. Sharon, thank you very much for your words of wisdom. Apollo, we're going to catch up with you later on. And thank you very much, Cheryl. Tonight, we are asking, what is love? Call us on 086 22 33303 or SMS 083 601 when we return. The love between a parent and a child. Welcome back to 3 Talk, your live afternoon talk show. Anne Launders says, love is the quiet understanding and mature acceptance of imperfection. It is real, it gives you strength and grows beyond you. Please welcome Sarah Cosson, a house mother from the SOS Children's Village. And welcome back, Claudia and Ian. Thank you so much for coming on to 3 Talk. What made you be a house mother? How did it happen?
I wanted all my life to become a house mother, especially to work with children that come from such a painful background. I think it's the love that I have. I wanted to share it with the children, because I too had a very painful experience in life, a difficult childhood. So that inspired me to come and work with these children in order to help, to support, to guide, and to really understand them and to share my experience with them, what I have been going through.
And what role do you play, or what role does your love play in the SOS Village?
The role that my love play with SOS Children's Village is, the children, when they are, coming from that painful background, for me to share, to care for them, and to really be for them, to support, to guide, and to help them through that painful experience by creating a warm atmosphere where the child feels safe and secure.
All right, let's go to Charles in Johannesburg. Hi, Charles.
Hi, Noeleen. It's Charles here.
Hi.
I'm 15 years old,
Yeah.
and I've read this book. It's called What's the Big Deal About Sex?
Yes.
But it's more on the borders of love and what love actually is. And the author, he describes 4 different kinds of love. The one is Soje love, and this is like your normal love for like, I love America, I love my parents. Then you've got Eros love, which is like erotic love. It's a love of the physical appearance of the person. Then you've got Filio love, which is like a friendship love. And finally you've got Agape love, which is an unconditional love, where you just love the person for what they do and for what they are.
How's the book helped you as a 15-year-old?
Well, it's actually helped me a lot because as a teenager, like, you do have a lot of relationships and trying to build them up. And I realize like filial love is what I normally have when I go to school with my peers. And then he also says in the book that it's good to start from a filial love and work it into eros love and finally agape love. So it's actually taught me a lot on how to work on relationships.
All right, thank you very much for that, Charles. What's your take on what Charles is saying?
I think that there are different kinds of love, and certainly what he mentioned, and we use the word quite loosely. And I think to also talk about the fact that there is a different. We love our children unconditionally, and we certainly help by nature because it's something that probably just kicks inside of us. So we will do things for our children that we don't usually do for someone who's a peer, for example. Conditional love is probably more between adult and adult, where there are more restrictions and there is more of a sense of if and then. And the fact that we can experience so many different kinds of loves on so many different levels makes us, I think, who we are. And that's what makes it so exciting. It's reassuring to know that someone at 15 wants to explore in a really positive way and find out about what he's feeling and what is around there, because it's a very, it's a tough experience for teenagers, very tough experience. So I think it's heartwarming to hear.
Sarah, you mentioned that a lot of the kids that you're taking care of come from very abusive homes and all of that, and you're giving them love. But how difficult is it for these kids to actually accept and know that what you're giving them is love coming from their background?
It is very difficult for children because they question your love all the time to show whether, just to find out whether you are sincere, And knowing that they are coming from that, you must also show them that you are trustworthy, that they can, in order for them to open up to you and to really, that they know that you are there in spite of what they've been through, that you are there for them. To help them through that experience. But you must be trustworthy yourself in order to, that they must see it in you, they must feel it, and then
they're able to accept it, they'll grab onto that love. SMS, my husband abused me for 2 years, I'm divorced and heart sore. How can I heal so that I can love again? Anonymous. That's an issue, isn't it, Ian? Because if someone has been in an abusive relationship, has left, divorced, they end up being very bitter towards men or towards women.
I think the thing goes much deeper. I'm working right now with a patient of mine who has been married 3 times. All 3 times to alcoholic husbands that were abusive towards her, physically, emotionally, mentally abusive towards her. When we explored her childhood, she grew up in a household where her father was an alcoholic. He was so abusive towards her that she had to hide physically from him all the time. If he came home, her mother would quickly feed her and put her in bed, or just to get her out of the way of the father all the time. So what I'm saying is, the husband is just a manifestation of a deeper issue. If we blame the husband, we take a short-term view, we're myopic. We need to see the big picture.
But she's not blaming the husband. All she's saying is that I cannot get into another loving relationship.
Until she's done the healing. And the healing goes further back than this relationship that she's been to. It goes back to childhood, because otherwise she would not have attracted this husband that was going to be abusive towards her. There's something in her that had attracted that in the first place. And I know a lot of people are getting very angry now and probably going to ring the phone up, but that's the reality of it. Because I've seen it so many times in my own life, because the moment, I remember the previous caller, Jacques, or the previous caller, Jacques, who was, he says he's in a profession, he sees how people abuse one another, and he feels as burned out because in his last he become totally cynical. And I understand that. Because if we don't do our own work as helpers, as therapists, as Imago relationship therapists, we can get stuck in the same thing. So we all need to go back and do our own work, because otherwise we're going to keep on projecting and attracting patterns that we have not healed ourselves.
Okay, let's go to Linda in Johannesburg. Hello, Linda.
Hello, good evening, Noeleen.
Good evening.
I had a question for the social worker that is on the program. I can't see the television, obviously, right now.
Claudia.
Claudia, yes. She made a comment earlier that, love between adults is always conditional. I have a question about adoptive parents who have adopted a child that is not theirs. And, in fact, I have family experience of this. My own parents adopted a child that was not theirs. And when this child did not turn out, meet their expectations, round about the age of 11 or 12, the love that they'd shown towards this, baby till the age of 11 turned to pure hatred, to the extent that she was the problem in the house, absolutely nobody else. In fact, I'm sure she was responsible for the Crimean War at some point. I'd like to hear a comment on that, on what the social worker's experience has been.
Thank you, Linda.
It's an interesting point, because very often adoption comes up, that because you don't know genetically what you're going to get, or because it's more of a surprise package. Some parents feel more resentful when they have difficult children, or children are not turning out to be what they thought. But in fact, that's really not the agenda. What really is to look at in the family, when a child has let the family down in terms of their own expectations, adoption really has nothing to do with it. What it has to do with it, that these parents have not dealt with their own disappointments about their own accomplishments. They haven't separated their own views about what they should have perhaps done with their own lives. And they've foisted a tremendous amount of pressure onto this child. There also are probably a whole lot of other feelings, perhaps, of failure, that they weren't able to produce their own children themselves. Whereas, we've come to understand that that isn't an area, but some people do still see that as a second option, adoption. And I think that we have to be very careful in areas like that, not to be distracted by the real topic. And in that instance, when children let us down, it makes us look at our own disappointments about our own life. And that's why raising children is so difficult. If you don't know who you are as a parent, if you haven't accepted your own self in terms of your own limitations, your children will throw them up in your face on a daily basis.
And it's hard to accept it.
Absolutely.
Because you're looking at yourself in the mirror. It's very hard.
Absolutely.
Sarah, just before we say goodbye to you, in a situation, and I'm sure there are dozens, thousands of homes that where children are not living in the ideal circumstances, where perhaps the parents are fighting, and there's not a lot of love. What would you say to those children for them not to grow up bitter without love? What do you say to those children?
I will say that they must form support groups, or go to somebody which they can trust, that they know what they share with that person, would stay with the person, that the person will help them through that experience, because the more that child open up, the more the healing will take place. But to guide the child and to support and to really go out and find a person really that will take the time, like to go to a psychologist or somebody in the family where the child can really go and open up, and where the child can just be, comfortable in that person's, in the presence of that person, where the child feel free and secure and safe.
Well, Sarah, thank you very much, and keep on giving that love.
Thank you very much.
To talk to my guests about love, call or SMS the numbers on the screen. In a few moments, how to create loving relationships in your life. Welcome back to Free Talk. I'm Noeleen. We're speaking about love. Please welcome back Apollo Zake. Apollo, unconditional love. How important is it to love unconditionally?
I think it's extremely important in that a lot of people want to give love in the hope of expecting something back. And unconditional love is just giving that love outwardly without trying to get a guarantee that I'm going to get love back by someone. So it's almost believing that the world and people you meet will offer you that same love that you're dishing out without being selfish and expecting something back, almost demanding it back returned to you. So that's how important unconditional love is. And it also helps you to live a more fulfilling life because you aren't living fearfully, you aren't living defensively anymore. You're just giving out this love, and you know, your innate knowing gives you the understanding that that love is all over and it's part of you. And yeah, you're living unconditionally at that stage.
How easy is it though, Ian, to truly love unconditionally? Because yes, it's about giving, but we want that reciprocal role as well.
I believe we can't really love unconditionally, except I think you mentioned for your children, but beyond that, I mean, we're in a quid pro quo relationship. We want something big. If I love you, I want you to love me back. If I'm kind to you, people expect reciprocation. And so unconditional love is a fairy tale very often in relationships. Unconditional love means learning to... Unconditional love can be done for me, myself. I can learn to work on the way to love myself unconditionally, and only then can I begin to love the world unconditionally. But that stays a fairy tale. It stays far away. It's very difficult for us to get that. It's perfection we're striving towards.
Noeleen?
I think that it's, as both Apollo and Ian have said, I think it's something that we cannot ever forget about, and I think human beings have to strive towards it. We've unfortunately put too many things in the way of unconditional love. We use religion, race, color, all kinds of differences between us to highlight the reasons why we can't just be open and loving and accept. Exactly.
Just love and if the other person has issues, it's their issue, but you're just loving unconditionally.
And unfortunately, we live with a lot of fear, so we feel like we have to fortify ourselves and defend ourselves against what is going to happen to us outside in the world. And you know, our parents tell us a lot of that. Well, this is how it is. Brace yourself, get used to disappointment. We tell our children a lot of the time that the world out there is not pleasant.
Horrible. Yeah.
Exactly. And so people learn to brace themselves and anticipate quite a lot of pain when it's not really necessary to do that. And that is why I think we have a lot of conditions. That's why we set a lot of rules. That's why it's an idea to be able to, you know, to think that I will take care of you and give you what you need without wanting something in return.
Okay, let's go to Mark in Johannesburg. Hi, Mark.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Okay, I've been listening to a program. A lot of people say that sex doesn't mean that's love. I disagree there. I've just recently been divorced, and the main reason for mine getting divorced is my wife thought I didn't love anymore because she thought I was having sex with another person. Now, if sex didn't equal love, then people wouldn't be upset with each other if your wife is sleeping with another guy or if your husband's sleeping with another woman. So I think sex and love in a relationship go hand in hand. Unconditional love means you can love no matter what the situation is, and it doesn't necessarily mean a relationship. Relationship love is it's very much an intimate thing. I wouldn't really put it down to anything else but intimacy, and intimacy would be sex.
All right, Mark, thank you very much for your call. Ian? It's a difficult one.
It's a difficult one. Again, I want to say there's a bigger picture on the whole thing, and we so easily get stuck with the little happening that is causing the divorce. And I want to say to people, we need to wake up and take a step back and look at our whole lives and realize there's a pattern. There's a pattern why we attract one another. There's a pattern why we replay and a reason why we replay things. And we attract people for a reason. His wife has attracted him for a reason to do what has happened for them. She has probably issues with rejection, and that's why when whatever happened there, I mean, we heard one side of the story, of course, was so painful for her that she had to go through the divorce at that time. So there's deeper reasons.
How do you make love last, Apollo?
I think it's a matter of falling in love with the right thing. And a lot of people fall in love with personality traits and characters, and these change over time.
Yeah.
So you find that after a certain time, you say the person you love is not the same person anymore. But if you fell in love with the real entity, the being that was within that person, that stays constant for a long period of time, and that is more permanent and lasting.
10 seconds.
For me, it's responsibility. That as long as I am not playing a victim role and I'm not being a martyr and I'm responsible, I will allow love to exist in my life.
Love does exist. Thank you so much for coming in. Keeping with the theme of love, Valentine's Day is coming soon, and 3 Talk is running an exciting competition for the best romantic story. Are you childhood sweetheart, for example? Did he sweep you off your feet? How did he propose, or did she? Was your wedding exciting and exceptional? Email 3talklove, one word, at urbanbrew.co.za, and you could be a guest on 3 Talk and stand in line to win a trip for 2 to Grand Paris. To find out more about 3 Talk's guests and topics, you can go to www.sabc3.co.za, or you can write to us at 3 Talk, PO Box 16, Melville 2109. Join us on 3 Talk tomorrow for our monthly exclusive book show. You've been watching 3 Talk. I'm Noeleen Nasango. See you same time tomorrow.
No more.
Just over a year ago, we featured the story of Mozambican heroin addicts Carlos and Dadinya Fellner. Special assignment brought them to Johannesburg and followed their rehabilitation. That was in December 2003. We now return to Maputo to see whether they have won their battle against the world's deadliest drug. You can have your say on drugs later in the program.
We saw something in our life which change you, give you a new strong, a new weapon for struggle, for the life. Struggle for the life is something quite difficult to explain.
This is Carlos Fellner, and this is his wife Dadinya, with their 2 daughters Katia and Yara. The pictures were taken shortly after the couple had been rehabilitated after many years of heroin addiction. This was just over a year ago, a time for celebration and planning a new future.
Oh, it was great. It was great.
You don't need it, it's not nice. You feel very good, very well, very happy.
I was a new person. I was very happy with the person I was.
Our feeling is I'm healthy. My body works nice. I'm looking nice.
Over the past 18 months, Carlos and Dadinya had become regular guests on special assignment. We had found them in a drug house in Maputo in Mozambique in July 2003. They were once amongst Maputo's elite, he a veterinary surgeon and once an advisor to former President Samora Machel, she an auditor at the United Nations. We had used a spy camera to film them and later met them to interview them. They told us how they had lost everything.
Everything. This is not our house. We rent this house. There is no furniture inside. And Carlos is working and have a payment monthly. But
the money is only for food and for drugs.
Carlos and Dadinya agreed to speak to us on condition that we help them kick their heroin habit. They had been addicted to drugs for more than 10 years and knew that if they didn't stop, they wouldn't live very long. Dadinya had already suffered brain damage as a result of an overdose.
Yeah, I hope will be the last one really.
And so started their journey of recovery and rehabilitation. We brought them to Johannesburg separately. They were booked into different rehabilitation centres. Dadinya was in Phoenix House for almost 3 months. Carlos in the House of Mercy for 6 weeks.
He seemed in some ways to be the model patient. He became even a role model because of his age and because of the fact that he was so compliant with the program. He became a role model for some of the youngsters.
She had to beat huge odds. She had to beat a history of all the years that she's been on this earth to change this pattern. And it can be done.
One of the therapeutic modalities we use is to get patients to write a goodbye letter and a series of letters to their drug of choice.
Emotionally, that she started gaining confidence, that she became assertive, that she took her own body back and she became assertive in herself and she started loving herself again.
It was almost as if he was trying to kid himself by hating and saying how destructive it was in his life. But there at the end, he ends off with almost a longingness never to let go.
We even brought their kids to Johannesburg for family therapy and reconciliation. They had by then rejected their parents. Carlos and Dadinya hoped that they would be able to lead a normal family life after their rehab.
I think Dadinya in some ways struck me as more committed to her recovery. Carlos sometimes seemed quite vague in session with me. He would say, yes.
The success rate for the rehabilitation of heroin addicts is less than 5%. After his primary care, Carlos believed he was rehabilitated. He wanted to go back to Maputo with his children. Dadinya, however, decided to continue with secondary treatment at a care centre in the Southern Cape.
I had the strength, but I felt that the time wasn't the right time to be back.
It was very sad for me, but I accepted.
He is at risk going back after a mere 6 weeks, which is a drop in the ocean.
We lived together during the last 16 years, and it was the first time which I was alone.
He should have gone straight from the House of Mercy into a secondary care program for at least 3 months and continued with individual therapy.
It was great. In Joburg, in South Africa. I was a new person. I was very happy with the person I was.
When Dottie left, she made a commitment to stay clean, and she left us with this beautiful letter. She says it's addressed to Phoenix House with love. I'm leaving now as a different person. Different to much better. Keep this house shining and proud. I'll miss you a lot. With all my love from my heart, Dadinya. The 2nd of December, 2003.
Carlos returned to Maputo alone.
I have problems of depression. In the first days, I call Ruby, my psychiatrist in House of Mercy, and she gave me help, talking with me, etc., etc., etc. But the situation became worse.
He had an absolute fear. I could say sometimes even almost a paranoia of being alone.
We were very, very lonely. Sometimes I spend hours crying alone at home.
But I think that this aloneness was something subconsciously that he, in fact, set himself up to be, because he could always then use that as an excuse. I relapsed because I was lonely.
In that time, I received a fax from Ruby, and Ruby said to me, Carlos, I know you are in a very, very, very bad condition. You need to come back.
We have the resources, you don't. Please, come back.
I invite both daughters for lunch in my house, and I waiting all the Sunday, and they don't come, they don't call me, and they stay alone.
You are going to rely upon the goodwill of your children whom you've not paid any attention to for over a decade, and you are going to start feeling sorry for yourself, and what's the next move after that?
A mere 3 months after Carlos was rehabilitated, he was back on heroin.
He was crying on the other side of the phone, saying how tough things were and everything. And what I felt was that he had regressed back to the level of a child, looking at me almost as a mother figure to help him. And I was just saying, come back to South Africa, come back to South Africa.
It's terrible. I said, you are not strong, you are like a puppet. Why you do that? Why?
Carlos has our numbers, and if he's able to get to the dealer, he's able to get hold of me. And we would have done everything in our power to bring him back here.
While Carlos was spiking heroin in Maputo, Dadinia had started a new life in Johannesburg. She had completed her secondary care program and was completely rehabilitated. She had found a job and a flat.
I had everything I need. I had a job. I had friends, really friends. Something that I never had before.
In May last year, Carlos was hit by a car in Maputo while crossing the road. He landed up in hospital. Alone and depressed, he called Dadinia. Come home, he told her. I'm sick. She left her job in Johannesburg, packed her bags and took a bus back to Maputo.
When I become sick, I have only one person for look for me, is Dadinia. And we come together.
So I arrived here and it was a shock. And I'm still in shock of what I saw of my hometown and of my husband.
Heroin was the glue of that relationship, and it was what Carlos once described to me as a shot of love. Give me a shot of love.
I get depressed, I get sad, and I knew how my relapse was there for me, was waiting for me.
When she arrived in May, I was relapsing. And I changed my face. I become with a very bad look when she arrived in May.
In relationships where addicts stay together, inevitably it is destructive for both of them. Inevitably they start using again.
I'm not surprised that you went back, because that subconscious conclusion and decision is just so powerful of I'm bad and therefore I need to punish myself, I need to self-sabotage. It's a very self-destructive lifestyle that she's had.
I just relapsed. I went to the dealer, I took it. I'll not say that it was bad or it was good. It was the same thing.
These are not two individuals, it's in fact one individual. They become fused. Their identity is not of Carlos and Dadi. Their identity becomes completely fused and intermingled.
I just relapsed.
Yeah, a lot of things. Lost the house.
I just relapsed.
Money problem.
Oh no. Everything will be a justification.
If we want to remain free of drugs, we've got to pay the ultimate price, which is to stay away from that best friend, from that heroin in this case, to ever go back to it. And the best friend being Carlos in her case also, as much as she loved him, to sacrifice that.
This mission to be using again, I can't afford. I'm 37 years old now, and I'm tired. I'm really tired. And the first thing I did is trying to kill myself.
Dadinya took an overdose of pills, but her suicide attempt failed. They were now back where they were 9 months before, spiking heroin. Dadinya's 4 months of rehabilitation and a new life in South Africa were down the drain.
It's very easy.
Very easy. Easy, very
People
easy.
who doesn't understand drug addiction, it's easy because you don't know what you're doing.
The resources at the House of Mercy that Sanka, that special assignment, had been put in, is lost. So, apart from anything else, it's a profound waste on on the level of the individual and on the level of the society.
2 or 3 weeks after the day arrived, we was robbed with a man inside our house at 4 o'clock in the morning with a gun.
The robbers ransacked their flat and took everything: cell phones, money and clothes. What's more, they raped Dadinya so badly she had to be taken to hospital for treatment and therapy.
You can imagine what is that? 3 weeks after the day arrived?
It's the second time that it happened to me. So my therapist, Ian, he did a great job with me. With the first rape of myself when I was 15 years old, you know. So I was still working on that. It was tough. It was tough.
When this problem started, Dadinya have only one person in Mozambique for help. Dadinya is me.
The couple couldn't pay their rent anymore and lost their flat. By then, their kids had also rejected them. They had no communication with them at all.
We are using a house which is not our house. Some friend borrow us a bedroom with bed conditions.
When the couple went into rehab in South Africa, they were tested for HIV/AIDS and were negative. In September last year, Carlos went for another test.
I do an HIV test and I become positive.
So his defenses is almost gone. So he needs to start the retrovirals.
And if you continue taking drugs, what then?
He will die quickly.
If Carlos is using antiretroviral drugs, if he then on top of that contacts his dealer and gets heroin, then he is putting himself, he is really hastening his end at the moment.
And after 2 or 3 weeks, I become sick with a diarrhea, a dysentery, amoebian dysentery. I lost all my defense.
Carlos was given a lot of chances. So I would be more keen to help him on the HIV side and to help him to, you know, let's say, maybe have a better way of life until the end of his days, because the end of his days are imminent.
He was dying. He was dying.
The day suffers a lot. Don't sleep during days.
It was the time that I realized that I love this man.
I want to do a lot of things. I have good programs for my life for the next 5 years. And I want to do that. I want to do that. And if I use drugs and antiretroviral, I died in 3 or 4 months. I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
That we must live life carefully. Carefully. And yeah, I realize I love him. I love Carlos.
Carlos spent 3 weeks in hospital in October last year. It was during this time that Dadinya discovered that she was also HIV positive.
When I knew I had HIV, I said, well, I'm done. I'm very tired.
If you are using drugs, you have 90% of possibility to be HIV positive. Stop the drugs, please. The life is beautiful. Stop the drugs, please.
I think the chances now of rehabilitation, the path they have chosen and the nature of the physiological problems that they now face in terms of their HIV status, I'm loath to say it, but I would see them as ending up in a place like across the road at St. Francis, in a terminally ill care center for HIV patients.
I'm struggling. I'm fighting in the last year. I'm fighting. I can say a lot of things, different things. Everything happened this year. Sick, HIV, relapse, rapid, stolen. I was told in the road 3 times. I lost my cell phone 3 times in the road. The cell phone, the glass, everything.
It's almost like the final acts of a tragedy, like Hamlet or Macbeth. There will be no one left on the stage who is alive.
And now, yes, we'll be together. We'll be together. Probably we will have the funeral at the same day.
And yes, maybe. Because if the day I died, I think I don't live more 2 or 3 months. And if I die, then I don't live more 2 or 3 months. I'm sure. Yeah, I think it's...
No, the truth is that we have only the 2 of us. And we have to fight for our life, we alone, ourselves, with our strength. There is no one else.
Now it's time to have your say. How can we prevent our children becoming heroin addicts? SMS the word truth and your comments to 34383. A selection of comments will appear on the Special Assignment website. You can also phone, fax or email us.